the speaker from Washington and also speaker from Singapore has already logged in, joined us online. Other speaker who are joining us in person also are available here. We'll start the program on time. Before that, let me briefly warmly welcome all the viewers watching the program live on all our social media portals, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, as well as our webinar and MMA Radio. Those who are watching on MMA Radio, very warm welcome to you. As usual, if you have any question, please, there's numbers flashed on your screen. Just send it across and we can pick up all the questions and place it before the speakers and the panelists. They're agreed to respond to all your questions. Then also all the people who are here in the auditorium, the priority is you are prioritized as far as the question is concerned. There's a question slips available. You can write a question and pass it on to us. Otherwise, there is a QR code put in front of your seat. Just scan them and just send the question. All the questions land to our mobile phone and we'll pick up and place it before the distinguished panelists. And as I mentioned, what's happening next few days, few people are just latecomers as usual. They're enjoying the refreshments. I'll take 2-3 minutes. I'll give it to them so that they finish and come and join us on time. 19th of May, we have an event on Read and Grow. This is a program which we do it for the management students. And also, we always strongly believe you need to be a great leader, you need to be a great reader. So in that context, go and buy the book Golden Ladder. You will really do a lot of good to you. It's available outside. And the author has also kindly agreed to autograph the book and give it to you. And the book is What the CEO Wants You to Know, How Your Company Really Works, Ram Charan's book. And we have 3 outstanding panelists. We'll be discussing this, Sangeeta, Mukund, and Senthil Kumar. Then on 24th of May, we have another interesting event on the book, The Company We Keep. There is Divya Kannan, again, she from IIM Ahmedabad. We have got Shivakumar, Giridhar Gopal, MD of Addison. Also, Vinay Kamath from Hindu Business Line will be joining us. On Monday, the 5th of June, we have Women in Public Sector. This is a program. Every month we do it for women-centric program and it's done by Women Business Forum. And this program is an online Women in Public Sector. She's joining us from Mumbai. Sabita Nadraj, she's the Chief General Manager of Retail from, she's a great achiever, Indian Oil. She's going to be talking to us. On 14th of June, we have a success story of it was done. We have, every time we bring in outstanding doctors to come and speak. This time we picked and choose ophthalmologists. We have Dr. Arunmozhi Varman. He's going to be coming and talking to us all about eyes and how it was done, some of the technology used. And, a few days back, we had Dr. Mohan from Dr. Mohan Diabetic Clinic. Like that, we had really also a lot of doctors. Idea is to, as much as we want you to learn the management, your health is also very important. Some of the tips what they give you will be very, very useful to you. Then we have talk and discussion on not to be missed event. This is happening on 15th of June at 6 p.m. here. The theme of the discussion is the journey of a champion. We have got 3 outstanding champions. One is Vishwanath Anand, the Grandmaster, chess Grandmaster. Then we have Geet Sethi, former world billiard champion, and Viren Rastuna, former Indian hockey captain. They are going to be coming and discussing on this theme, and they'll also be talking about OGQ. How many of you know what is OGQ? We have in armed forces Bibliness OGQ, but here is Olympic gold quest. How much of effort is going behind to get that 1 gram of gold? And what is the effort and why India is not so much medals? They're going to be discussing that also. And the theme of the discussion will be mainly the journey of a champion. 27th, again, we have Read and Grow. Then on 26th June, again, we have Urbanize Social Change and Development, the Tamil Nadu Experience. Again, we have an outstanding panelist because urbanization is a serious issue, what's happening. If you read some of the statistics, if you read that, what is the total population of Tamil Nadu vis-a-vis what is the population of Chennai, you'll really get mind-boggling. And if everybody come to city, what has happened to the villages and what are the expectations and what are the aspirations? We have some outstanding panel to come and discuss this. Then on 28th of June, again, we have a seminar along with Ernest Ning. We're doing an off-day seminar. This very, very important event. Again, we're all discussing generative AI. The future is here. It's all about artificial intelligence, chat GPT, everything about things we are going to discuss. We have got some outstanding speakers to come and speak on this. Coming to today's event, I've taken enough time to brief. I think most of the people are almost in. The Golden Ladder, Rise to be Unstoppable. The topic itself is so provocative and really attracts you to buy the book and read. But I can tell you, I've seen this book. I know this gentleman who is a part of our team and is member. And I think I actually walk miles to listen to him. He has come and spoken at MMA also many occasions. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hand together to welcome the author of this book, Vijay Parthasarathy, is there, and also my own past president of MMA, and also our mentor, well-wisher, advisor, who has been a great source of support to us and during the period the building was under construction. Mr. Ramkumar is independent director and also an angel investor. Ramkumar. Then we also joined online Muktesh, Micky, Pant, former CEO of China. He joined us from Washington. Very warm welcome to you, Mr. Micky. It's a pleasure to have you with us. I know you joined us not very early morning, 8:30 in the morning is quite reasonable time. I am quite sure you had your breakfast and we are looking forward to hear your thought-provoking views. Then we also have Mr. Supratim Bose. He is a global MedTech Leader and Management Consultant, former chairman of Johnson & Johnson. He joined us from Singapore. Very warm welcome to you, sir. It's a pleasure to have you with us. The format of the program is, yes, very warm round of applause to all our distinguished panelists this evening. Right. Thank you. And the format of the program is we'll request the distinguished special invitees from Washington, Singapore, and Chennai. They'll be talking to us, share the insights on the theme, what is going to be discussed. Thereafter, I request the author, Vijay, to speak and on the theme of the book and what is his thoughts and how this book is very, very relevant for anybody who is here, any leader, any management professional. And we'll have a soft launch of the book. Thereafter, it will be a free-flowing conversation between the people who are in person, also those who are joined us online from Washington and Singapore. Let me have the privilege of introducing the distinguished panelists and the author for this evening. Today, the hero of the day today is the author. Let me introduce him first. Vijay Parthasarathy is a brand specialist, mind coach, and motivational speaker from Bangalore. And he's done his IIM Ahmedabad. He's IIT Kanpur, IIM Ahmedabad, and has over 35 years of experience, global experience in corporate strategy, brand building, and also over 20 years of experience at CEO level. Vijay has worked with over 75 brands and 15 agencies and across 22 countries. His experience span across Procter & Gamble, Colgate, Palmolive, Johnson & Johnson, Tata Group, and many more leading corporates. And despite what the outside world defines as having it all, he was also blindsided by an emotional slump, struggling with long bouts of depression, negativity that at the time felt impossible to get out. This is an area which I think somebody should listen to him, how somebody got into some trouble and how he came out of it. That's really, really passionate story to listen. Excuse me. Over the next 3 years, using combination of specific technique, mindfulness, Reiki, CBT, and much more, and immense hard work, was able to pull out to stronger and than ever. Equipped with this powerful mind-based technique, he now possesses a strong desire to pass his personal knowledge. Very warm welcome to Vijay, and it's a pleasure to have you with us. Sorry, my apology. I think too much of talking in the MMA. Sorry. Then let me have the pleasure of introducing Muktesh, popularly known as Micky Pant. He is a former CEO of China, Washington, D.C. Pant retired from brand in 2020 after 15 years of service. Most recently, he was Chief Executive Officer of China Holding, New York, and he was also the Chief Executive Officer of KFC. Many of you know, Kentucky Fried Chicken, which is very popular in Chennai too. And he was CEO globally and President of Taco Bell International and Chief Concept Officer for Brands. And Pant is also an independent director on the boards of Beyond Meat, and also he was also previously a member of board of directors of Primavera Capital Acquisitions and also Pinnacle Foods. Pant holds a BTech degree from Chennai Engineering College and also the Indian Institute of Technology Kanpur, and is a recipient of Indian Institute Distinguished Alumnus Award 2020. Very warm welcome to you, Micky. It's a pleasure to have you with us this evening.
Thank you.
Let me have the pleasure of introducing the next guest speaker for this evening is Mr. Supratim Bose. He is a global MedTech Leader Management and Consultant and former company group chairman of Johnson & Johnson, a veteran of the healthcare industry with nearly over 4 decades of global experience. Currently, he is the founder and CEO of Bose Management Consulting. A native of Mumbai, Supratim has got his BSc degree and also done his MS in physics and also biophysical and also Master of Management from Jamnalal Bajaj University. He was also a member of the Worldwide Group Operating Committee of Johnson & Johnson Medical Devices and Diagnostic Group. He's also visiting faculty of a couple of business schools and also NTU Singapore. Very warm welcome to you, Supratim, and he's joined us from Singapore this evening. We are really looking forward to hearing him.
Thanks.
Then it's a pleasure to introduce my own past president and well-wisher of MMA, Ramkumar. And Ramkumar is an MBA from IIM Ahmedabad and over 4 years of decade of experience, diverse industries such as bicycle, automobile, engineering, telecom, and polymer products. Ramkumar has a vast experience in the area of long-term and strategic planning, setting up greenfield projects, working on merger and acquisitions of companies in India and overseas. And is also past president of Madras Management Association and member on the board of IIM Bodh Gaya, and also got the prestigious Laila Almini Award, Best Leader of the Year from 2018. Very warm welcome to you, Mr. Ramkumar. It's a pleasure to have you with us. Gentlemen, as I mentioned to you, the format of the program is we will now request our gentlemen who have joined us online and to share their insights. Thereafter, I think the author and Mr. Ramkumar will speak on this. Let me have the privilege of now welcoming Mr. Muktesh, Micky Pant from CEO of Yum China to share his insight. Over to you, Micky.
Thank you for the introduction, and it really is a pleasure to be here, as I'm sure it is for the other friends of Vijay who have known him. I've had the pleasure of knowing Vijay since we were, I guess, in our mid-teens, entering IIT Kanpur more than 50 years ago. And on top of that, I had the distinct pleasure of being in the same faculty as he did, chemical engineering. So we both studied chemical engineering at IIT Kanpur. And then, can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we did that, and then we went, roughly parallel paths, working in companies. And I joined Hindustan Lever. Vijay joined, various have started with Procter & Gamble, then he was at Johnson & Johnson, and then he really had a very distinguished career. And through that entire time, we kept in close contact. We met up in India, of course, in the Middle East, and in the US whenever he was here. And we'll talk about the book later, I guess, after Vijay's had a chance to introduce it. But I just did want to mention that Vijay has a rare quality, which makes him particularly qualified to write this sort of book and also pass his acquired wisdom. And that quality is the ability to look within himself. I think all of us acquire knowledge and experience by looking outwards. We have our eyes and ears and memories, and we work in different companies and pick up a lot from other people. But as all of us know, as life goes by, the biggest and the most mysterious unknown is really what's happening inside. Probably just as complicated, maybe even more in some ways than the external world. I think there was a reference made recently to the fact that he has publicly acknowledged that he did have challenges and that he faced them and came out of them. He was brave enough to admit that, but I think the fact is that everybody in this room and on this call, and every human being does go through internal turmoil, internal trials. And while it is one thing to pick up experiences, tips, trade secrets, methods of working from the external world and from your experience, it is crucially important to know how to handle the turmoil that is going on within, or how best to harness it. And I think that's what this book does effectively. And that's been my experience with Vijay all the way through, that he is an extremely self-aware person. That makes him particularly qualified to be a great mentor and a coach and a friend. And we have the sort of friendship where, whenever any of us are in doubt or feeling any need for help, we just pick up the phone and speak with each other, often in the middle of the night. I tend to call him early in the morning when he's generally on his treadmill. But it always struck me that he could add a great deal of value in the next stage of his career by passing on this combination. And I think the analogy of the ladder is a very powerful one. But as I said, we'll have a chance to talk about that as we go along. So with those words, I will pause and then come back to you later. Thank you.
Now I request Supratim Bose would like to share your thoughts on this. Mr. Bose, please.
So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone around the world. It's a real pleasure for me to be talking about Vijay, who has been my friend since the early 80s. And to me, it's not a surprise Vijay writes this book on branding. And neither is it a surprise that Vijay continues to deploy all the credible talent that he has, which was evident from the early days. So we met in J&J. We were in different divisions, but that Vijay's mind is much broader than most of us ever could think of, was evident from the fact that he was actively engaged in discussions with people from MedTech like myself, or in pharma like Selvin, who is also in the room, I know. And he was able to give ideas even in those discussions. Most important was his questioning mind. So I'll never forget that he used to ask the sharpest question, which even business leaders in our business may not have. And it indicated his ability to think much broader and wider than most people do when they are at the job and the career at that time. When you're busy trying to complete the assignments that you are given and fulfilling your responsibility. So first thing about Vijay is his inquisitiveness. The second thing at that time itself, as he gave suggestions in a very humble way, his innovative thinking was pretty evident. So whether he was talking to the person on the pharma side or to me on the MedTech side, it was very evident that he was thinking differently, or he was encouraging us to think differently by asking the right questions again. So to me, therefore, his innovative mindset is the second thing that came out very clearly in those times. The third thing was his ability to keep the friendship alive. In today's world, people use WhatsApp, etc. But imagine in those days trying to connect across the world with people and trying to keep the friendships in a way that he does was not very easy in those times. The fact that he has Selvin, myself, etc. today in this room, you have to imagine is almost 50 years again, yeah. And that is the next aspect of Vijay. He's a true friend, and he knows exactly how to interact with each of his friends and how to keep the friendships alive. The next part that we looked at and we worked on in many ways was that whenever Vijay had something which he knew would help others, he would recommend that. Whatever learnings he had from whatever he was learning in consumer, he was part of. So this desire to teach and educate people was evident from those days. Of course, we walked different paths after that, and for a few years were not in touch. So I moved from J&J moving into the global leadership of J&J. But at all times, the discussion was still oriented towards how to learn and how to keep learning and how to make people understand that is much more beyond what you are doing and presently at your work. So this native intelligence, this intellectual mindset, this ability to very nicely motivate and inspire people was a character of Vijay. And I'm sure he continues with that today. The book he has written is obviously his experiences. He's spent a lot of time in the industry, and he knows exactly what would help others in this unique effort to create a brand for the company. So we will be discussing about that book later. but the learnings from that book, as I read it, can be applied to any industry. And as we go on discussions, we will understand that the importance of this thing is so important. Yeah, because many great products have failed to create that brand just because of certain understanding of what would create that brand. So Golden Ladder should be a must read for everybody, I would say. I'm not trying to just promote the book, but to say it's simple, it's easy to understand, and something that will add value. So look forward to the success of Golden Ladder and look forward to the continuing success of Vijay.
Good evening to everybody. It's audible. I want to say a few things about Vijay, which you haven't heard from two of his friends, colleagues. I met him first time in IIM Ahmedabad, and our first few months impression of him was he can sing Kishore Kumar songs, he can sing Neil Diamond songs, and he'll do it with passion, right? To the extent that we all even now call him Brother Diamond, right? Yeah, I think these days I've not heard him sing excepting recently somewhere in a club. Then he can play the mouth organ also, right? You remember that? We have not heard for a long time. So he is always full of energy, and he would not settle for anything less than what is required. And most important, I think he'll be very direct, right? He won't allow anybody to go on something, and he'll cut short and come back. So we've seen him in the hostel. Then we stayed in the same apartment when we were in Bombay. Then we had a lot of very interesting incidents. Some of our friends are here, but he was always very passionate about brands and marketing, customer, which is well reflected in the book itself. I think some of his colleagues are saying that. And he used to rubbish everything which is not the best, right? I think he's moderated himself a little bit now. Otherwise, he just say, it has to be fantastic. Otherwise, it's not the thing. And over a period of time, I think, as people have said, and he's also admitted, he's also gone through certain things like Reiki and other meditation, etc., which has made him look inwards much more. And Vijay, we see, is from Neil Diamond to Reiki to Brahma Kumaris and all that, all in one. The best part is, I think the book has got all this brought in by him. We know that he works very hard. And in fact, 6 months back when we were talking and generally asked him what is he doing and all that, then he suddenly said, I need to complete a book. I said, what is this book? He said, I am writing a book. So I asked him, what is this all about? Then he briefly explained to me this golden ladder and 2 legs of the ladder and all that. First thing I thought when I heard that was that this is too big. I mean, can somebody do this? Because too big a canvas to bring in principles of management and also talk about mental attitudes and mindset and all that. There are many books written on principles. There are many books written on leadership qualities. There are not many people who attempted one book for all this together, like a playbook, which is tried. Anyway, I thought it's a very bold and ambitious move. Let us wait and have a look at it. So I think he will tell you, I don't want to take the thunder away. Definitely, he has distilled it into some 21 mantras and also made it very easy to read. What I liked about this whole thing was the many examples he's given, live examples, and also he is asking people to reflect at the end of it. What do you think about your company, your business, and how do you go about it? There are very interesting anecdotes about his personal experiences, which makes it connect with him. The book is written in a way that he's speaking to you. You don't think that you're reading a book. Normally, all these theories, etc., could be quite boring, so principles and all that. But he's made it like, he's taking a walk somewhere or he's gone somewhere and he's met somebody. So it is interwoven with some small story, which makes it more interesting. And he's also captured the underlying reason why companies have survived for so many years. Some of the big companies, be it, despite calamities, generation changes, and various economic cycles, there are companies. This is not a usual thing you read in all management books, but the essence of what happens, which is, I would call it as a deep insight into what make these companies tick. So I'm sure many people, especially the young people who are aspiring to be leaders and the entrepreneurs, would find this very useful. And it's a must read for all the people who are interested in management and leadership, is what I would say. With this, I will hand over the mic and request Vijay to talk about this.
Yeah, thank you very much. Firstly, Group Captain, for setting this whole thing up. I sincerely appreciate it. And Micky, thanks for all those wonderful words coming all the way from Washington, D.C. And Supratim, I mean, really touched my heart in multiple areas where you and me were spending a lot of time in your room. I think your intercom number was 375 those days, right? And because the first thing in the morning, I used to ring up his intercom, and then we used to meet. And Ram, thank you so much for bringing in all this musical avenues into this, and I really appreciate, and thank you all once again. And to each one of you here, thank you so much for taking the time. And I know that each one of you could have been somewhere else, but you have chosen to be here, and I think I really appreciate that. And I also recognize that each of you, obviously, Selvin, Konda, whoever it is, each of you bring in such tremendous amount of accomplishments and achievements. And I feel truly honored to be actually standing here and sharing these words. Thank you so, so much. And I sincerely mean it. Okay. Why did I write this book? A couple of weeks ago, maybe you would have seen in the media, there was this young man of 27 who actually goes and tries to retrieve a ring of his sister, which she had dropped it on the tin roof. As he was retrieving, he gets electrocuted. And then he had to get all his four limbs amputated. Fast forward a year, he was not lying in rehab camp for the depressed. He actually cracked probably the most toughest exam, the CAT, and he was on his way to IIM Ahmedabad. What happens to you, you may or may not have control. But what you do with what happens to you, you have 100% control. Let me repeat that again. What happens to you, you may or may not have control. But what you do with what happens to you, you have 100% control. That's what we realized at the end of 2021, that thousands of companies have kind of collapsed with one COVID. Millions of individuals displaced, and many totally dysfunctional. But then I realized that there are a select few who actually weathered the storm of not just one COVID, but hundreds of them. The World Wars, the Spanish flu, the bubonic plague, the Great Depression, and they keep going. And with a few pandemics for breakfast, what is it that they do so different? That they stand apart like this, like night and day. Now, having been privileged to be a part of quite a few of them, like Procter & Gamble, Johnson & Johnson, Colgate-Palmolive, the Tata Group, for a brief while with Unilever, I recognized that there is a commonality that runs across all of them. A commonality not based on coincidence. A commonality that's based on a structured set of systems and processes that they have actually institutionalized as a template, so that irrespective of who comes and goes, the commonality of this remains. Now, this commonality is what I have tried to bring under the construct of the golden ladder, rise to be unstoppable. So what is this golden ladder? This golden ladder is that magical stairway, ascending which you are at a place which renders you completely immune to every kind of adversity and calamity, and probably makes you achieve the impossible. Like any other ladder, this ladder too has two legs. Let's take the left leg for a start. The left leg is what the majority of the world chases. the education, the technology, the experience, the expertise, the products, the benefits, the features, the money, seemingly towards, they chase this seemingly towards a magical rainbow at the end of the horizon, which may or may not exist. And here's an interesting thing. They do all this, the majority of the world, and do all this with flawed business models because they're not aware. The legends of the world work on this leg, let's call this the domain leg, with a completely different business model. And that's the first thing the legends do. And next, the majority of the world does not, they may be aware, but they do not recognize the relevance, even the importance of the other leg, that is the right leg. The right leg is probably the most powerful instrument that we all possess, but without an instruction manual. Any guesses? The mind. This mind is the most powerful thing that we possess, and it actually can propel us to the heights of success or the depths of despair, depending on how you use it. And this combination, the legends recognize. So in energizing, powering, and anchoring these two legs together, and almost in a symbiotic manner, is what makes people ascend this golden ladder. Now, I felt that this is the kind of knowledge that should be shared with the millions of people who may not be privy to this. And therefore, I have set in this book specific principles and techniques which will make the left leg completely success-oriented in terms of what you do. So in terms of what is it that those legends do that you can do, and you in the sense that any business owner can do today. Along with that, I've also set a specific roadmap to be able to understand what is it that takes the best in all of us to achieve in the mind, and how you can actually rise up the golden ladder. Now, here is an interesting piece of information. Every single legend that we talk about in this book, every single legend, has been on this planet longer than the combined longevity all the four organizations like Amazon, Apple, Google, and Microsoft together. Each one of them has been on this planet for 160, 200 years. And that's the power that they bring. So the objective is every single individual today deserves the opportunity to be at a place where he can be unstoppable. Every single individual. He should be given the opportunity. And my objective is to try and provide him this opportunity. The golden ladder is just but a process so that the final destination is to be unstoppable. Now, who's this book for? If someone is raising up the corporate ladder, or if someone is embarking on a great startup, or if someone is into a business which is doing reasonably well, but he wants to scale it to a different kind of realm and zone, this book will do that for you. It's like this: if you're driving on a highway at 160 kilometers an hour, and you feel good about going ahead of a guy who is at 120, suddenly you see something flying by above you at 800 kilometers an hour at a different paradigm, and that's what this book will do for you, if you're in the corporate sector, or if you're running a business. But, like my great friend Bhaskar Bhatt had said somewhere else, in case you're not in any of these races, the corporate or the business, here's the great news. This book is the right book for you. Irrespective of wherever you are, irrespective of wherever you are in your current status of your health, your current status of your wealth, your current status of your relationships, if you really want to if you harbor the desire to be at a completely different place, vibrating at the highest of frequency, which makes you believe that the life is a complete dream, then this book is for you. If you believe that your time on this planet is not just to come, eat, meet, make merry, and leave, but to stamp your presence, leave a legacy for your family and children, and live beyond your time, then this book is for you. You would have heard phrases like the power of visualization, the power of the subconscious mind. Now, these would remain just concepts if you did not know what exactly is the process to follow to be able to achieve and manifest this. I have tried and attempted to do this in this book. I have set a 5-step visualization process in absolute detail, following which you can actually manifest every single desire. I have set a 5-step process wherein you can conquer every single self-limiting belief and achieve limitless ones. Now, let me make it clear that I have not woken up one day and saw all this falling from the sky. I have actually understood from the true masters in every sense for years across multiple legends and seen them almost had been a personal witness to many of them and imbibed that and seen results in my life. If the market share of a company collapsed from 37% to 7% in just under 3 weeks and goes back to 35% in less than a year, I have had a ringside view. If a corporate CEO, successful corporate CEO at the age of 45, succumbs to anxiety disorders and depression, but powers himself way above what he ever did in less than 3 years, I've had a personal perspective. So this is what I bring in this book in terms of how personal you can actually come to in terms of feeling the exact nature of every element in this book. We have all been fed with the lie that whatever we program between the ages of 0 to 7 is what defines us. I want you to challenge that lie by reading this book. I want you to challenge that lie by recognizing that there could be a secret code that could actually reprogram the subconscious mind and make you achieve the impossible. I have shared the secret code here in this book. I believe we all owe to ourselves to be the best version of ourselves constantly, and then to transcribe it to the next generation. If you deeply care, love, and want to make a difference to someone, I sincerely recommend you gift this book. He will one day thank you for it. So today, I invite you to join me on this journey, either through the process of business transformation or through personal mastery. In this journey, we'll certainly fall. But each time, we dust ourselves and rise, which is what makes us unstoppable. This is a voyage where we will explore, discover, and then be amazed. I sincerely believe that every one of us deserves to be that unstoppable version of ourselves. I want you to access and seize that power. Every one of us, in trying to be that unstoppable version, will make a huge difference to the entire world. I want you to access that power, join me on this journey, and be that unstoppable person the world looks at you. Starting today, beginning now. Are you ready? Thank you so much. I will just play a short video, which will actually give an idea of what I just spoke. Dim the lights and just play the video. I'll just take another minute. And I was requested and it was suggested to me that I read one page of the book to give you a feel of how the narrative is or how the style is and whatever it is. So I'm just going to read one page of the book. This is the first kind of, I can use this. Hello, can you hear me? Yeah. This chapter reads, The Momentous Flight. It was no ordinary Thanksgiving day. Time would be witness to this day that would soon find a special place in history books. It was late afternoon with a hint of a drizzle outside. The young man, all of 23, was in a sweat as he pondered for one final moment on the crazy yet life-changing journey he was embarking on. He could not believe he was actually pulling it off. Having dropped out of a lucrative investment banking job and graduating from Stanford, he now found himself suddenly outside the sleepy airport in Portland, Oregon. As the boarding announcement for the flight to Tokyo came crackling through, he knew he couldn't turn back. The year was 1962. The embers of the fires of Hiroshima and Nagasaki had not yet been doused, and Japan was not the hottest place for an American to be, let alone for a business proposition. But he knew deep inside he needed to do this. As he stepped inside the aircraft, the captain rattled off the instructions in Japanese, of which he understood nothing, and the plane streamed across the sky towards Tokyo. He wondered whether his return ticket would be of any avail or if he would even make it back alive. But one thing was certain. He was determined to leave a mark on the planet, one that people will look up to for generations and remind themselves that the man who was the architect of the slogan, "Just do it," truly lived up to it every minute. That was Phil Knight, the man who brought Nike to the world. He dared to dream. He defined every odd, challenged all conventional wisdom, made people stare at him in disbelief at what he proposed to do, but he did, only to stand tall and rise to become unstoppable. As the world stood aside to let him enter those coveted gates of immortality and watched with admiration, a legend was born on that eventful day. He had ascended the golden ladder to become unstoppable. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vijay. And maybe I think you can have a photo op. Can you show the book so that we can take a picture with your copy of the book and step forward? You take it. Yeah.
Thank you. Good luck. Thank you.
So, Mr. Vijay, you would like to take the conversation forward? Sorry? Online. No, so that will come again. Based on your speech, they'll come with the questions. We lead the conversation. Based on your conversation, online questions will come. Still coming. Sorry, sir?
No.
You can.
Micky, you would like to say something or ask something? They're frozen.
Can you hear me?
Okay. Mr. Micky, are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. No, maybe would you like to share your thoughts of your reach the goal?
Or any questions he may.
And some of the questions what has been addressed to you is what is your principles of golden ladder, how you achieved, and what you would like to share? The large number of youngsters and large number of members are watching. Your thoughts of wisdom on the theme which is being discussed this evening. Over to you, Mr. Micky.
Yeah, well, just a couple of thoughts. I mean, it's a great book, and I read it. I read the Kindle edition first because I could not get the physical copy. But then Vijay sent me a copy, nicely autographed, and I'm very proud to have it. And I was wondering what to cover in this part of the conversation, and I really was focused on page 233 on the many mantras that he's got, number 19, which made a big impression on me. And the reason it did was that I've found in my life and watching many executives that there is a reason why lately a lot of Indian executives have succeeded in America. And, people, most recent example being Ajay Banga, who was, ironically, he also worked on KFC for a while, and he he's just shot up. His brother is a good friend of many of us, and it's a pleasure to watch him grow the way he has. And then you watch the largest technology companies in the world by far, Microsoft and Google and IBM, all being run by Indians. And I think that among the other reasons that have been enumerated, one which this chapter 19, I believe, also brings out, is that Indians are good, have been trained in the art of handling paradoxes, apparent contradictions, where something is true, but the opposite is also true. And it's not in many cultures that happens. In many cultures around the world, you're taught to choose between contradictions, whereas in India, we live with them. And I think it's a product of our rich history, culture, diversity, and everything else. But in chapter 19, for example, Vijay has said that there are three qualities that can give what he calls the shield of protective armor. It's like the old knights used to have three sort of bits of armor that can protect you in a battle and make you invulnerable. And it's a great chapter because it's got a lot of examples there of Phil Knight, he's referred to already, of Steve Jobs, of Viktor Frankl, But the three are in a sense slightly contradictory. The first is resilience, the ability to plow through difficulty. And I think all of us will agree in life that it's very tempting to give up at some stage, but success comes to those who plow through things. And he's given great examples of that. One of the best descriptions I had once heard of resilience was they said, hey, you never die of drowning. Nobody dies by drowning. They die only when they stop swimming. So it's a bit like that you have to plow through and carry on. The second he's talked about is mentorship and coaching and the power of that. And lastly, he talks about humility. The reason why I say that some of these are paradoxical and contradictory, and it happens to all of us. I remember being thrown into the world of management, and we were getting two distinct streams of advice. There was one stream of advice which said that you must listen to everybody, you must learn from everyone, ask a lot of questions, see what others are doing, copy them, copy best behaviors, just find your role models, and that which is really absorbing everything that you can see. And equally, in many disciplines, including in marketing, we were told you must have a point of view. You must know what you're doing. You must stick with it. You must be firm. Don't change your mind. Don't become like a wishy-washy sort of character. Now, these are apparent contradictions, and I've found in Western cultures and other cultures, people will often choose one or the other style. The key to success is that they are not contradictory. At the highest level, they're complementary. And the reason is that you develop resilience if you have both a good point of view, but you have the ability to listen to other people also. Especially these days when, on WhatsApp, you're either in one camp or you're in the other camp. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. And whatever evidence is presented is taken by one camp to mean one thing, and by the other camp, the same evidence is taken to mean the exact opposite. So it's a situation where people are not growing. And I think this chapter illuminates that, in a sense, humility is recognizing that we are not perfect, that we don't know everything, and that we should not be afraid to change our minds. But we do need a strong working hypothesis of what we are going to do. Just to complete the thought, I'll leave one other, which is not really in the book, but it's reflected in the thinking in the book a lot and from my personal experience. When it comes to running a company or running a brand or dealing with people, there are broadly two approaches in any situation. The first approach is to take the strengths or the things that are working and to build on those. And the other approach is to identify the problems and try to fix those problems. And it's a long thought, so I will not bore you with too many details, but in my experience, the first works, identifying strengths, building strengths. The second fails, identifying problems and trying to solve them. The reason is that very often strengths and weaknesses are two sides of the same coin. Now, I've had many executives who are, for example, creative. They're not analytical. Now, you can say they're not analytical, it's a weakness. So they will never make a CFO, but they can make a very good marketing manager because they are creative. If you take that person and then say, okay, I'll send them to courses to understand analytics and to teach them how to be more organized, it fails. I think many of us will have had that experience. So if you have a rabbit, don't try to teach it to swim, let it run. That's what it's designed for. Find somebody else to do the swimming. And I found that in life also, in brands particularly. When I was running KFC, it was a big thing that, everybody used to tell me, from my family to my friends, hey, it's fried. How can you sell fried chicken? Fried chicken is bad for the heart. And I told them that, look, Colonel Sanders invented KFC at the age of 66, and he lived to be 90. He used to eat it every day. And he had heart trouble. And this was 60 years ago when medicines were not that advanced. So I don't see the thing. And the fact is that fried chicken strength is the great taste and the weakness is the health implication. They're the same thing. If you remove the strength, you lose the weakness also. So that's a big part of what I've realized is sort of focus on the strengths. And I think that's what comes to me throughout all the chapters in this book is the fact that it's a very complex, nuanced world that we live in. We must have an idea of what we want to do, but we must be open to other coaching and mentorship. But most importantly, in every situation, if we try to build on the strength of a person rather than to fix their weaknesses, we will not only be successful, but I think we'll develop a philosophy and a way of working that can take us forward. So I'll just pause there and come back if there are any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Micky. Maybe Mr. Bose, over to you. You have been a true global leader, Mr. Bose, and you've seen so many leaders around the world when you are heading Johnson & Johnson. Maybe would you like to share some anecdotes from your perspective with relevant to this book, what you would like to share? I think it will be a great insight for most of us who are watching this program. Over to you, Mr. Bose.
Sure. I think one of the chapters which most struck me was the one where Vijay is trying to say, what business are you really in? Yeah. So I think when Ted Lovett wrote his seminal essay on marketing myopia, many people for the first time awoke to ask that question. But I think as we look at ourselves and whether we are in the corporate world or for our own self, that is one of the most relevant questions to ask. Having come from a company which was very diversified like J&J, you had a consumer group, you had a pharmaceutical group, you have a MedTech group, and then you start asking the question, what business is this company really in? And then you realize that that question needs to be answered in a manner that best suits the end customer that we are talking about. Now today, if I were to look at it and say that I am CEO of a robotics company, and I look at that robot, the first thing in the mind is, really, what business am I in? That robot looks exactly what you have seen in Star Wars movies. It has got 4 arms and it is assisting surgeons to do surgery. And in many ways, therefore, as we look at ourselves and we think of the businesses we are in, it is important to understand finally what is this business we are in. So Vijay has provided some very beautiful examples in this book to try and understand why companies succeeded. So in the same way, having come from the MedTech industry initially, one looked at all the technical parts of the product and trying to understand the product features and how it could be better than somebody else and trying to project that all the time. But when one goes deeper into understanding what are we trying to actually do in this business, what is the business we are actually in? And the great Jimber, the man who handled the Tylenol crisis, took this very, very seriously. So many years ago again, tried to understand finally how does the patient benefit and what does the patient say when they are dealing with the MedTech products. Because we are used to talking to the surgeon who uses that product. We are used to talking to hospitals who put the products in the hospital. And very surprisingly came one of the most famous lines that are used today in J&J, which made the company, and where we say we are in the business of saving human lives. And we are in the business of restoring joys for life. Now you think of it when the patient is being explained what procedures he is going to undertake and what will happen after that. And he understands, first of all, if you put in a stent or if you do a bypass, you are actually saving that patient's life. Instead of talking in terms of surgery and how I will open the chest and how I will get my products into the chest and the heart, etc. And then when you're putting a patient in surgery and then you try to look at and say, I'm going to put an implant and this implant and that implant, you're basically restoring joys of life. And both of these are related to emotions. And I think that's what he has so beautifully captured in the book. Obviously, he has highlighted what those emotions are and what make a difference to the organization. And when you look generally into the organization, when you start using that to talk to your people and your teams, you build a completely different team. People who have been in this business have stayed in this business for a long time. Most of the people we work with are 30, 40 years in the same business. Same with myself, with over 4 decades in the same business. And that is what I think is so well explored. The emotion of it is very important. You get to a hospital and you see a child, and you see a child who's going to undertake surgery. Just hold the hands of the child and you just give the child the assurance that things will be okay. That's the business we are in. And that's what should be the way for everybody to think. Look at every child you have ever seen in a hospital. And that should change the thinking about what people should be looking as they look towards looking at their business. The business and the commerce part of it, like Vijay explained, is just one side of it. For many of us, coming from science and technology, etc., that IQ part is very well understood. We can work hard, we can explain things on the mind so well. We can use all sorts of formats and graphs to explain things. It is the human aspect that we must train our people to understand. And we have to do it across. For example, we send even finance, HR, service, everybody to cover hospitals and go with the sales rep to go into the hospital. And everybody, I say, go visit the children's ward. So that way you will quickly learn what business we are in is the day you can make that child happy, that after whatever he goes through, he'll be happier. I think the 8 emotions Vijay has spoken about are a part that we understand so well that we have to capture. So much so the entire business model has changed based on that. So what was 30 years ago or 40 years ago is completely different from now, because we are just answering that one question: what business are we in? So you'll be surprised. The product feature and benefits must be only 5% of what we do. It may stun people, but that's exactly the fact. Talking about the products, what is good, what is great, is very, very less, because the clinical trials and all that prove that. So what are we trying to do to make that happen? And I think he has captured that in the emotions very well. I can relate to everything we do with those emotions. The first part we do is create awareness. Many of the people today are looking at health because the awareness about cardiovascular disease, the awareness of diabetes, etc., is way, way, way bigger than it was ever before. And that's what we spend the first time in trying to do. Two, we know that if we are going to save the life of a human being, that person must be in the best hands and the most trained hands. And because we are in the business of saving lives, training of physician actually is the responsibility of the companies in MedTech. You'll be surprised. Most of these things may never even have entered hospitals, but we train the physicians to be able to do that. So robotic surgery training is one of the most critical things that has to be done before anybody can go touch a patient to do that. The third part of it is to look and say, how do we therefore get this benefit extended to people? So the access of it, trying to serve more patients across, adapting to the environment to be able to do it. One has to understand, therefore, all this is happening because of that one fact. The commercial part is a result of many of the things that are explained by Vijay in the book. And so to create the market access, to create the ability to reach the right hospitals, to reach to the right surgeons, then train them, then help them, then have them train the others, becomes a very, very important part of it. The next part of it is that we have to adapt to the healthcare systems around the world. And they are very, 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 very different, by the way. So the US healthcare, which almost 18% of GDP, versus in some countries where it is 2%, you have to realize, therefore, you're still doing it because you want to create that for the patients. Yeah. And so overall, that approach of affordability comes in there. So in short, therefore, each one of us who has to build a business, if they answer that question correctly, will see a completely long-lasting life of that business. And so when Vijay was mentioning J&J and the 140 years it is in business today, is because that question was answered long back by one of the smartest guys I have worked with ever in my life. And everything within the company operates on that principle. Yeah. So I think, well done, Vijay. I think it's a question that all of us should look at and answer.
Mr. Ramkumar, I think you've been a part of a major conglomerate, and
I wanted to talk about people. There are a lot of things one can talk about, and basically what I wanted to say was there have been many situations where when the team is aligned and everybody has the common purpose, you get phenomenal results, much more than what we expected. There are some examples now. I don't want to do it. Instead, I want to ask some questions to Vijay. First question I want to ask you is, how did you think of writing this book? How long did it take for you from the time you thought about writing and actually publishing this?
Yeah, thanks, Ram. I mean, yeah, the reason why I wrote that book was basically, I mean, one day, like, I was really surprised as to why one COVID can actually, pulverize the whole world. I started on the 4th of March, 2022. The writing itself did not take too long, actually. I could complete the book writing in about 90 to 120 days. But then began the whole journey of multiple things like editing and formatting and publishing. And that's a huge world out there. So point to point, it took me about 13 months from the time I started the first pen to first word to in the marketplace online.
No, but you're saying in 20 days you wrote the whole
90 days, 120 days, 120 days.
120 days.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
You had some notes elsewhere, something, or you went to some place and sat down.
No, I have an office upstairs, so we have, so 4:30 in the morning every day.
Very well done. And it's written in a very nice and easy style to read, actually. It's like, interesting
Thank you.
anecdotes. Any questions from the audience?
Yes. Fine.
No, the question is, if the book makes you to be optimistic and positive under tough circumstances, what methodology you're adopting to train younger generation of our country? One Mr. Kupusamy, member of MMA.
You should read the book. This is simple. I mean, seriously, because this is the key question. Like I keep saying, what happens to you, you may or may not have control. Anything can happen, right? You come in all dressed to come for a presentation, and on the way, your coffee spills on your only shirt that you brought. What do? So anything can happen. So the important thing in life is to be able to understand what is it that, how do you handle the rest of it? And that is, it's not like words like don't worry. And nobody wants to worry, but they don't know how not to worry, right? What you need is a template to, when something happens, how you not worry. So those are the things that I've tried to capture in the book. So I hope it helps.
One of the suggestions I had, I was thinking about this after reading a book. See, this is something like a journey, right? It's not people read the book and, they implement it and it's over.
Yeah, correct.
And maybe if you're really interested in helping people to do this, you can't stop with this.
Right.
So can there be a forum, Golden Ladder Forum community you can create? And you have people enlisted, like you have got people, with a lot of experience in the panel, from Singapore, and you have so many friends and so many colleagues of yours. So each one may be very passionate or well-versed about each of the mantras. So can you have a digital way of connecting youngsters who want to ask? So I'm saying people give a real life situation. They want to know what happens in this situation. How do you go about it? I don't know about the monetization of this, how it works, but there can be a series of things which can be done over a period of time, mantra 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and maybe a few weeks. So these things can be ingrained, and also it depends on the feedback you already got. I don't know what kind of feedback you got, but I'm sure if people are interested, everybody wants to know how do you tackle the situation. There is nobody readily available. There's no mentor. Everybody can, afford or pay or something. Would there be something which you can think of is what I thought.
No, absolutely valid. I mean, if you can actually digitalize, just to give you a background, in the beginning of COVID, coincidentally, I created this entire platform I ran about close to 300 webinars in about 2.5 years, where I created this whole template, and I run a community called Diamonds in the Sky. And this is what I do. So, but, and therefore the book was easy, because what I was doing it in the webinars was just lifting that and putting it. And so we have groups of people coming online, and we do a hot seat, and we actually do this both with business transformation and also in terms of personal mastery. So your question is absolutely right. I mean, thanks for asking. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, Vijay, first of all, hearty congrats.
Thank you so much.
We're all waiting, many of our classmates and friends, waiting for this book and for this day in Chennai to see the book launch. And I have the pleasure, although I had purchased a book through Amazon, I've also took a purchase of a book here.
Thank you.
Thank you. So first of all, very happy and proud to see you finishing this book. I remember you spoke about this 5 months back. The point that I just wanted to see the relevance of the golden ladder in the creative industry in which I represent. Many of our friends know that I'm in a very different world. In the world of movies, in the world of web series and music videos and so on. And as you were talking and also reading the foreword of the book, I could see a lot of relevance in my industry as well, creative industry. The left leg of the golden ladder is always there in abundance. There's a lot of knowledge, there's a lot of skills, technical skills, there's a lot of technology as well. Today, most of the creative products are driven by technology, driven by soft power. On the right part of it, which is the limitless mind that you spoke about, that is the thing that the creative industry is always trying to strengthen. For example, we put investment of 25, 50, 100 crores on a single story, which is visualized in the form of a film. When a director, for example, let's take the latest story of Ponniyin Selvan, which is shown in 2 sequels. As a person inside the industry, I know it went to 240 to 250 crores. So you require a tremendous sense of self-belief and courage to start that kind of project and sustain that project right through. That is where the right leg of the ladder, I suppose, becomes so important.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
this is an observation more than a question, but I just want to
No, thank you
say
so
that
much.
there is a great deal of reinforcement. And I think a kind of workshop, if you can set this to the next level from the book, I think there will be a lot of people in the creative industry, young directors, young DOPs, who have to get that self-belief and courage to get their stories to the world. So this is what I want.
Fantastic idea. Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Yeah. Yes, Mr. Rajagopal.
Thanks. I am Rajagopal. I just gone through the book, Golden Ladder, written by Mr. Vijay Parthasarathy. I thought you'd send a mail to him. Immediately I did it. I just for the benefit of audience, I'm just reading my message, which I sent across to Mr. Vijay. Dear Vijay, awesome. No doubt I had taken a long time to finish reading The Golden Ladder, owing to preoccupation. The book is quite interesting reading and informative. I fully agree with you when you say, however expert a man, woman may be, he or she needs a mentor, coach. Example, Virat Kohli. You say you saw a young couple in a small country walking along, not knowing who they are. I'm also surprised when you say they belong to a royal family. However big you may be humble. This is a good lesson one should learn from them. Another thing that has struck me most was that of a young man approaching an astrologer who said the young man was an incarnation of the great Napoleon Bonaparte. The boy totally believed it and no doubt became great. Moral of the story, you are what you believe. I often tune into your lecture, The Ultimate Secret of Visualization and the Master Secret, Reprogramming Your Brain. On the whole, your book, The Golden Ladder, is worth keeping as a treasure. I am greatly benefited reading it. Rest assured, Vijay, I'll keep it reading it again and again. Your feather in your cap, keep the flag flying. Regards, Rajagopal.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Sir, please proceed to the only questions, sir. Reviews you can share with him directly later.
Can I go ahead?
Yeah, Murli. Yeah.
First, congrats, Vijay. I find this to be a essence of culmination of your 4.5 decades of experience. The jubilations, the happiness, the trials and tribulations you had in your life. This is a crux of all of it. And what to do and what not to do with it. You highlighted it beautifully.
Thank you.
That's first.
Thank you so much.
As a sequel to it, and as a sequel to what Ramkumar was telling you, maybe you can start a Golden Ladder Club with units in every city and take it forward in a big way. This would be an easier thing sitting in your place you can do, maybe join them later. But this can be a wide movement, which can be a good augury for not only the students, even for everyone in this world as it is. Just
Thank you so
suggestion,
much.
that's about it.
Thank you, Murli. Okay.
I think we got another few minutes. We'll try and squeeze in as many questions as possible, which has come online. We have over 680 viewers watching the program live, and we got a couple of questions, which some of them we already answered. Here's a question from Ravi Kumar from Coimbatore, sir. He says, sir, maybe your next book could be the golden ladder embedded with diamond. Rise to be unstoppable.
He has a diamond in the sky. He has to pull it and put it on the hand.
What is one point that you think you have missed it in this book, you would like to highlight in the next book, which could be a real insight for the leaders?
What's the trailer for the thing?
See, to be honest, actually, I have, there's nothing really that I have left, which I have not covered in this book. The only thing that I could probably write another book is how to write and publish a book. So, and no, jokes apart, the important thing is that whatever is coming as a feedback in terms of whatever I'm learning from the responses from the book is what I can probably cover, if at all, I write another book. It's just.
Yeah, before I go to the next question, maybe I would like to ask Micky or Bose. So do you have any question for the author, Mr. Vijay Parthasarathy? Need not be relevant to the book. It could be something relevant to the management, which you think it's very, very relevant to most of the audience who are watching the program live. Over to you, Micky.
Well, thank you. Well, firstly, I was so impressed with the comments of both Supratim and Ramkumar. So I really am very impressed, and I hope I can get to meet them sometime. On slightly lighter note, Vijay, I think that, when the job is done, you got to climb down the ladder also, because otherwise, if you keep climbing, you run out of oxygen. So I think maybe in terms of the next chapter, and I think you need to go up and down the ladder in life. I mean, you can't really just keep relentless climbing. So there might be a angle where you can talk about how in real life, you do need to get down to the ground to see what's happening periodically. And also for those of us who are now getting older, how do you gracefully climb down the ladder and leave some of the ego right on the top step and manage life?
Yeah, correct.
Maybe
Good one.
Bose, any questions from your point of view too? Mr. Vijay? Or to Mr. Bose?
I think more than that, as a question, I think that suggestion of the Golden Ladder Club really appealed to me, yeah, Vijay, in some ways. So either to regular podcast or something, at least all the chapters, if you take one in a month or whatever it is,
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, Supratim. Yeah,
it
well
will be
brought out.
very, very helpful. Yeah. So I think that thing most people are mentioning could help a lot of people. Because
Thank you so much.
One of the things lacking in many ways is how to develop from other parts of it in other industries into global leaders, and some of these learnings could help a lot, to be honest.
Thanks so much, Supratim. Really appreciate. Thanks a lot.
Yes, sir. Now we move on to the online question, which has come is from Mr. Ganapati from Chennai. Sir, in your experience, how long does it typically take for a business to see results after implementing the strategy? Specifically, what's been indicated in your book?
See, it depends on, of course, where you are, but assuming that by and large, most of us are at average plus. I think if you take one or two specific objectives of what you want to achieve, like, for example, I believe, like even Mr. Mukesh Ambani constantly says, the one defining factor that can tilt the scales of power in your favor, if you have the recipe for that, and that's courage. And many people know that, but how do you develop courage? How do you open the gates of fear and push through courage? And if you can learn that, and I've tried my best to incorporate that in this book, and every single month, if you can spend some time, within a year, you should be able to actually get a long way going.
Great, sir. Maybe two more last questions. I'll see. Here's Mr. Philip. Anybody from audience? Okay. Mr. Philip, again from member, is from Chennai. He said today in the competitive world, you have been part of the global conglomerate in many of the multinationals around the world. You've seen leaders from different part of the world. One single strategy or one single point which really impressed, which was common to many of the leaders whom you met and followed, and which you think is relevant, which you would like to share it with the
No, actually, I think I have preempted that question. The one single characteristic and one single quality that makes a difference to anybody's life in anything is courage. Nothing else.
Lovely. Then we also have a question from Mr. Murthy, again from Chennai. Sir, how does the Golden Ladder differentiate itself from other self-help motivational book? What is your stake in especially recommending to the people and how they should use this, especially the points what you have mentioned them over a period?
See, this golden ladder, like I said, is just the process. The ultimate objective is how you can be unstoppable. It's not just on it's not a self-motivation book. It's more, it starts with business. It actually starts with business transformation. And if you're not in the realm of business transformation, you can even use it for personal mastery. But so it's not just one of those self-motivating books. Of course, there are many books, and I have learned a lot from those books.
Great, sir. I think most of the questions are repetitive questions. I thought which you have mainly addressed. One last chance. Anybody has got many questions? Otherwise, we'll move on to the next phase of thing. Okay. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I think the book is available and is available for you at a special price. If you go to Amazon, you may not get the same price. You would like to buy it, and the author is willing to autograph the book and give it. Yeah, big round of applause to and also Mr. Micky and Mr. Bose joined us from Singapore and Washington. You are separated by distance. On behalf of the members of MMA and on behalf of all who are present here, would like to present a digital memento to you so that you remember them. And this is what we do at MMA. May I have the digital memento on the screen, please? We present on behalf of you. We do a lot of CSR work with the poor school children. And on your behalf, we are going to present them textbook to a couple of children, which will be really, I think, because the people like you come and speak to us. That is what inspires us to do well and continue to do well. And thank you for accepting this offer, Mr. Micky and also Mr. Bose. Both. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Now I request, please, Ramkumar, President Memento on behalf of MMA to some more portfolio reads. Right. Yeah, you can present the moment with Mr. Ramkumar. Yes. Thank you.
I think Micky and Supratim would recognize Radha.
Yeah, you look at the camera.
No, I just
Thank
said
you,
that
Mr. Micky.
I think
Thank you.
Micky and Supratim would recognize Radha.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks so much, sir. Mr. Micky and Mr. Bose, when you visit next time, we look forward to your visiting Madras Management Center. It's a pleasure to have you with us. Thank you so much for joining us from Washington, Singapore. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We have over 700 people watching this program live. And thanks to the viewers for watching this program. You are the inspiration for us to bring you some more outstanding programs to you. Thank you. And if any of your friends watching, connecting the YouTube and be inspiring for them to watch this.
In case he has purchased the book, and I'm happy to sign in case for whatever it is.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll come.
Bye-bye. Till we meet again. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.